In this video, we're going to take a look at Studio's Reverb Essentials, what each control is and how it works. Starting in the top left-hand corner, we have the LED light, which is an indication as to whether the impulse responses are still loading. To the right of that is the CPU meter, which is an indication as to how hard the processor on your machine is working. Moving all the way to the right-hand side of the top menu, we have the information icon, which when selected, if you hover over any control, you'll get a little bit of information about what that control does. There's then a settings menu, which has more options available to you. Moving down the interface, we then have the preset menu. We can open this by using the drop-down arrow on the left-hand side. And here we can see quite a complex array of options. On the left-hand side, we can filter the preset list via family. So for example, I can select all the presets that were created via the team at Air Studios. And down at the bottom, I have a further array of filters, which is where I can then filter the preset further. For example, I could look at patches which suit a more ethereal sound. You can load a preset by double-clicking that preset, or you can click and press the load button. In the bottom left-hand corner, when you select a patch, it will show you a little bit of information about how that particular preset sounds. You can then use the stars on the right-hand side to favor a particular sound. Then when you use the star filter in the top right-hand corner, that will show all your favorite sounds. We then have a users option. Now, when you save a custom user preset, that will appear in this list, and you do that by using this save icon in the top right corner of the preset menu. You can then choose to rename that preset or delete that preset at a later date by clicking the three little dots next to the preset. One of the fundamental differences in the Air Studios Reverb versus the Essentials version is the fact that you have no control over any of the hall configurations or the microphones that are enabled in that preset. So what you'll notice is when I change the preset to, say, Lush Hall, compared to something that's more like the washed out synths, you'll notice that all the different settings are changing, but I cannot click to show these drop-down menus. So what's happening is the preset behind the scenes is changing a lot of the parameters for you and giving you a fixed configuration. To explain what each of these controls do, the hall layout in the sort of middle left is going to show you which way round Air Studios is configured in that preset, either in the layout A position, favored by a lot of the Air Studio engineers, or you can have layout B, which is the layout which Hans Zimmer prefers. The canopy height will show you what position the canopy which floats in the middle of Air Studios is set to. So lower settings here will give drier sounds, whereas the higher settings will give more reverberant sounds. The canopy material will show you what absorption treatment is placed on the canopy. So if it's Mellotech, it will be slightly more absorption based than the wood, which is more reflective. We then have the gallery damping, which will show you whether the absorption is placed in the galleries or not. We then, in the middle of the interface, have this interactive hall guide, which is where I can click and change the pucks to show different positions of the performer and where that performer is resonating from in the space. Each of these individual dots, which are highlighted in different colors, will indicate the microphones which are used in that particular preset. So for example, this preset here uses the decker tree, it uses the gallery wides, and it also uses the gallery back positions. Now, if I was to change this particular preset to something more traditional, we can see here that this particular preset has the tree outriggers, the ambient microphones enabled as the basis, but it also has the two canopy mics enabled. Now at the bottom of the interface we have the input level, so this is where we can set the amount of input going into the plugin. We can choose whether the sound source is in mono or stereo, so if we look at these two white pucks in the middle and I change this to mono, we now have a single sound source. So you might want to do that if you're applying this reverb to something that's more of a soloist, such as a solo violin. A stereo one might be more suited to something that's ensemble based, so if you have an ensemble based product such as Albion 1, this might be more suited to applying to general ensemble based patches. The width control will change how far wide the ensemble is spread. We then have a few global controls for reverb, so the sync button will allow you to lock the pre-delay to the host tempo of your DAW. Pre-delay being the amount of time it has taken for the first bit of the reverb to be heard after the dry signal. We then have an early stretch level, which allows you to increase how much the early reflections are stretched out. So that's anywhere between up to 50 milliseconds. And then we have a tail stretch, which is anything post 50 milliseconds. And that will allow you to increase the overall decay of the reverb. So if you want to create really long reverbs, for example, we whack this up, and then we can see the calculating IR here is now up to 4.5 seconds. On the output section, we have the mix control or wet and dry control. If you're using this as a send, then it should be used as 100%. However, you can make this to blend between the wet and the dry if you're applying as an insert. We then have an output control, which allows us to adjust the overall output level of the plugin. If you have any further questions about SStudio's Reverb and its application, please get in touch with us at spitfireaudio.com/support.
Thanks for watching Spitfire Clips. Let us know if it was too long, too short, too fast, or too slow in the comments down below. Hit like if we answered your question, and subscribe for more clips, tips, tricks, and exclusive Spitfire content.